Now join palms. And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing today? Good to see you all here. Clearly nothing better to do on a Saturday morning in San Diego. Why show up here?
Tame the mind. Try to tame the mind.
Tame the mind. I couldn't hear the first word. That's what I was making sure. How's it going so far?
It's a rough road.
It's a rough road, yes. That's so Manjushri Bodhisattva, the statue there, and I know you've heard me say this, but for anyone else, this is Bodhisattva Manjushri represents great wisdom. And he sits on a lion. That lion looks very cute, very playful, very friendly. Anyone ever been in a cage with a lion? Do you imagine it being like that? Probably not, you know? It's not like social media photos where you see somebody cuddling up next to a lion, you know? Just imagine like a vicious lion attacking and being able to tame it. And that's the metaphor with Manjushri often seen on the lion, is that taming the mind is about as difficult as taming a crazy wild lion. Sounds simple, right? I mean, I guess I should ask, anyone here ever tamed a lion? Anyone here ever tamed their mind? All right, we got a bunch of no's, so I guess we got some work. What else? Why show up here?
Besides your magnetic personality.
My magnetic personality, you're so full of it. But I appreciate, you know, the ego boost, as if I need one, you know? Thank you, Normal. Always so sweet. What else? You know, no lying is one of the first 5 precepts, my friend. Yeah.
To pause.
To pause. From
Everything else that's moving and shaking and going on.
everything else that's moving and shaking and going on, for sure. And that's the funny thing, is that while you're sitting here, right, this is for all of us, we all show up for different reasons, but pausing, slowing down, taking a break is one of them. While we're sitting here, is everything around us, has it slowed down or stopped? No. But what have you done?
Slow down.
Say again?
Slow down and stop.
Slow down and stopped by doing what? Sitting. I know, it sounds like a trick question. Sorry, Bridget. By sitting, right? And then when we sit, we recognize everything else is still going on around us. All the craziness, all the madness, you know, all the horror, everything that's going on in the world right now has not stopped or changed or gone away. But when we pause, when we take a break, when we stop, when we sit, we allow our minds an opportunity to try to settle. Now, the challenge is, that's where it starts. The challenge is we can't always get up and, escape from the madness that we're in. Very often we have to learn, and that's what this practice is, to bring that pause, right? That sitting idea of sitting meaning meditation. We have to learn to bring that into all of the craziness. So ultimately, no matter how much madness is going on around us, our mind is steady, our mind is tamed, our mind is calm, and we're not impacted by everything. How easily do you get triggered by things around you? Who gets triggered really easily? Pretty sure I saw every hand. So that's the practice. So by the time that you get out of here in 45 minutes, you'll probably have mastered all of that. So don't worry. You'll be just fine. And to our millions of YouTube followers, good morning to you as well. I promise not to ignore you anymore now that we're back. I can see the screen, so feel free to chime in, say hello. When we get to questions, feel free to ask questions there also. All right, so we'll start with the meditation practice. There's a couple things I'll tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or doing it wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And the practice is learning to get quiet and still within all the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you are in a cushion, slide into the front third often helps. If you're on a bench or a chair, also pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten. Shoulders are relaxed. Hands can be on the knees or in the lap. If you need to move during meditation, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator. It just means your leg hurts or you have an itch. So feel free to move and return to stillness. And as a reminder for those who are brand new, you will not think nothing. You're not trying to shut off your mind. Your mind will continue to race. I will say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in thought and bring you back to present moment. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, you'll settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding your attention, focus, to the stomach or the chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. letting go of expectations, letting go of judgment from the practice, just sitting, breathing. Breathing in, follow breath in, breathing out, follow breath out. Keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each thought, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, and with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, just as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. Most important with the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awaken. He was a human being no different than any one of us who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means very simply for all of us in this room, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. The practice of meditation is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still, You put your mask on, please. Meditation is not an escape. It is direct perception into the present moment. Very often people come into meditation thinking that that's going to fix things. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation only makes you become aware of that. So you can then make changes in your life. Meditation is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. It's not the escape that often people think it is. It is learning to be with each moment as it arises. And that's difficult for a lot of people, because the present moment is what most people spend their entire lives running away from. It's what leads most people to meditation and Buddhist practice. The stress, the anxiety, the fear, the worry about future. So much out of our control, yet so much we still try to control. The anger, the sadness, the depression about past. So much we wish we hadn't done or done differently or could have changed. And so there's this constant mind of wanting to escape. And this practice is holding up a mirror. And when you hold up a mirror and you look in it, there you are. And you have the absolute tremendous joy of sitting with the one thing that can bring you all the peace and happiness and beauty in the world. And that's your mind. Now, how many of you sit around all day thinking about all the peaceful, wonderful, beautiful things in your hearts and minds all day long? For the record, I didn't see one hand go up. That's the problem. It's so much easier to think about all the pain and suffering and misery around us. And then you carve out a few minutes of like, okay, I'm going to love me right now. I'm going to give myself these 20 minutes of peace and quiet to take care of me. And then I'm going to spend the other 23 hours and 40 minutes stressed out, panicked, and afraid. That'll destroy you. And that's what leads many of us here. It's what led me here. So it's a practice. The practice of staying present allows you to just embrace life as it is. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's sitting, breathing, becoming aware of your thoughts, your words, and your actions. And learning to be nice and honest to every single person you encounter. So it's really all you got to do is just be nice and honest. The crazy thing is we've all heard that our entire lives. Probably. Most people. I mean, most people growing up aren't told to go be mean and lie to everyone. Most people growing up aren't told to go take advantage of people or treat others terribly. Most people growing up aren't told to be mean to themselves. But for some crazy reason, we spend a lot of time in this place of just not feeling okay. And just to clarify, the practice of being present doesn't mean that everything's wonderful in the present moment. But the present moment is what's going on. And so the practice for those who are brand new is learning to embrace and observe and see the present moment for what it actually is. Just the present moment. And not allow the emotions to get so crushed and devastated. So with that, I'll pause. I always prefer really just to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything that you're sitting with. And we'll use the rest of our brief time this morning. And again, to all of you YouTube folks, welcome. Feel free to chime in, say hello. And if you have questions, you can type them out here as well. So we'll just open up for questions.
So there are obviously a lot of reasons to meditate and a lot of different types of meditation. I'm thinking of chanting and walking and body stand and sitting. My question is, at the end of the day, is the benefit the same? Is it just a matter of finding what you are willing to do? Or
I like how you say willing. So let me just repeat that for anyone who didn't hear it, and for those wherever you are. So the question was around, there's a lot of different types of meditation practices. There's chanting, there's silence, there's walking, there's, you said a fourth, but scanning, thank you, body scanning. And so your question is the benefit the same? Is it really about what you're just willing to do? Yes, yes, and yes, right? So my approach, very specifically with Buddhist practice, my background is in Zen practice. It's what I got introduced to 19 years ago. It's what I've been at ever since. So that's my personal practice. So everything I lead, everything I share comes from that lens, but at the same time, introducing people to Buddhist practices, for me personally as Jeff, much broad and general. And so the approach that I share isn't specific to Zen practice at all. What I share is also somewhat different from what I personally do. With that being said, if 100 people lead you in meditation, none of them are necessarily right or wrong or good or bad. You know, if they're telling you to go jump off a cliff and pay a bunch of money, then you should probably find somebody else to lead you in meditation, right? But ultimately, and I'm rambling really for anyone who might be new here, but ultimately, yes, it's what are you willing to do? Meaning by willing, what I mean by that is, what are you yourselves going to commit to as a daily practice, right? That's what it really comes down to. I'll talk about potential benefits in a minute, but before you even get to what's the benefit from a meditation practice, if you don't do a meditation practice, there is zero benefit. So that's really where it has to start. And often I encourage people, if you don't have a daily practice, to try a meditation every day for 5 minutes for 3 weeks. You know, if you're brand new, or even if you've been at this, people have been at this stuff for years and still have a hard time sitting every single day. And part of that barrier, part of that hindrance is because people complicate it, right? I mean, I've been sitting with people like this for 20 years, and people make it so darn complicated. You know, it has to be at a certain time, it has to be at a certain place. I need a certain incense, I need a bell, I have to drive an hour. You know, people are like, it has to be at 7 o'clock. Like, it's so darn complicated. How many of you brushed your teeth this morning? How simple was that? You didn't go through your list of 17 things that you had to do before you brushed your teeth. Your eyes were probably still closed, and you're just like, right? It's not that complicated. Meditation, my suggestion, I hate saying must, but for it to become a daily practice, we want to work towards it being just as simple as brushing your teeth, right? And the reason I suggest 5 minutes is if you don't have a daily practice of any type, again, I'll talk about that in a minute, and you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to do 20 minutes, I'm going to do 30 minutes, I'm going to do 40 minutes, the likelihood of doing that every single day when it's not a daily practice is like zero. Because what do people always say? I don't have what?
Time.
Which blows my mind, because you know how much time most people waste, right? Now, I don't consider Netflix necessarily a waste of time, but it always fascinates me that we can binge 6 hours of some show because we just want to see the end. And then the next morning, we're like, I'm just so busy. I don't have time to make food. You know? Meditation's the same thing. Very rarely do we make time for the most important thing in our lives, and that's our mental, emotional health and well-being. Taking care of you is number one. If you don't take care of yourself, it's like the oxygen mask on an airplane. It drops, they tell you to put it on yourself first before you put it on the child. Because if you don't put it on yourself first, you can't take care of anybody. And if you don't take care of your mind and your heart and your emotions first, you're going to have a really hard time taking care of anybody else. So that's why for me, 5 minutes, if you don't have a daily practice, that's going to be hard enough. If you can't do 5 minutes, do 3 minutes, but make it a routine. And then take after doing that for 3 weeks, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, take a week off. Why would I suggest taking a week off?
See the difference.
See the difference. Because most people who've been meditating for a while recognize like they've been doing it for a while, and then they stop doing it, that things tend to go down. And when I say things, I mean emotion. Your emotional state is what I'm referring to. And does that make sense so far? And this ties into the benefit. And then the last piece will be the type. The benefit, I won't necessarily sit here and tell you like what the benefits are. But very rarely, if ever, does doing meditation make things worse. Again, I use the brushing the teeth example, right? We're not calling the dentist every morning asking them, hey, what are the benefits of brushing teeth? It's just something we do. And so we recognize the benefit from doing it, right? Meditation is the same thing. The benefit that you experience from it won't come from anything that I tell you is going to happen to you. That's why it annoys Western culture with meditation and Buddhism is really annoying, because you got like 32 pages of people telling you, here are all the benefits of meditation. And if you pay me, $99 a month for 6 months, then you'll get all these benefits. And you can turn to page 2 and see the rest of the program. You will know what the benefits are from doing it. Way different than me telling you what the benefits are. And third, the type, yes. Find a type that works. Sitting, as the Buddha said, sitting, standing, walking, lying down. Those are the words about types of meditation. And for me, that's really a metaphor of there's so many different types. Find a practice that you enjoy. Find a practice that's pleasant for you. Find a practice that you'll do. Like you said, willing to do. Because if you're not willing to do it, you don't like it. I've been leading people with tremendous trauma, whether it's combat veterans or just life in general, people coming back, with PTSD, traumatic brain injuries. A lot of people in this room have experienced tremendous trauma. When you sit in silence for 5 minutes and you have tremendous trauma, what are you left with? Trauma. So for some people, silent meditation is absolutely torture. All right? So different types. People have a hard time sitting still, staying focused, then do a walking meditation. A walking meditation can be beautiful. But do a walking meditation without like gossiping with your friend. There's nothing wrong with taking a walk, but then just call it taking a walk. Right? Meditation is concentration and focus on present moment. If we concentrate and focus on the present moment, what are we not focused on? All the problems. So mantra meditation is wonderful. They give you something to focus on, to chant, to recite, right? So all different types, find ones. That's a long answer to a simple question, but really for everybody's, I think, benefit. Hopefully that's helpful. Yeah. Other thoughts, questions?
Can you explain the 6 tusks again for me?
Yeah, so I referenced Manjushri Bodhisattva that represents wisdom and taming the mind. This one over here is Samantabhadra. He sits on an elephant. The elephant has 6 tusks. The Samantabhadra, in Buddhism, they call them bodhisattvas. They're enlightened beings. And he represents great practice, great diligence, great effort. And the 6 tusks represent what's called the 6 paramitas. The word paramita translates loosely to perfection, but it's not about being perfect. There are 6 practices to help us overcome suffering or just suffer less. And those 6 practices are generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. That's it. So the Bodhisattva practice, which is the practice in the Mahayana school of Buddhism, which is one of the major schools of Buddhism, is the practice of these paramitas. And so it's what my first master taught me, and for me, every day since then, that's been the practice. And the beautiful thing about it is, for those who are new to Buddhism, Buddhism sounds or seems like it's this thing they did 2,500 years ago in some other country in some other language, right? The practice of generosity, of giving your time, giving your attention, giving a heart, giving a smile, giving a hug, right? Is something we all understand. It has nothing to do with being Buddhist. The practice of morality, right? Being honest, being faithful, being loyal, being true to yourself and to others, using right speech, being kind, right? Morality is something we all understand. Has nothing to do with being Buddhist. Being patient, same thing. Always starting with patience for yourself. It's very often the place that many people struggle with the most, is being patient with themselves. You know? One of the most ironic things is I've seen for so many people, they'll read a Buddhist book and then they get frustrated. It's like, oh, Pema Chodron makes it sound so simple and beautiful. Just be kind and compassionate. You just read like 200 pages of this beautiful teachings. And then you're out being pissed off at other people and you're like, man, I hate this Buddhist stuff. Be patient with yourself. And then, of course, with others always. Because every human being is struggling with their own mess just like you are. So the practice of patience. Diligence, work hard at this. At everything you do. The great Zen Master Dogen would say, practice as if your hair is on fire. You know, I don't have to worry about that so much. But if your hair is on fire, you wouldn't just let it burn. You'd quickly try to put it out because it hurts. And so very often in life, we recognize that it hurts sometimes. Life hurts. We have challenges and pain. And so we put these practices into our lives so we hurt less. Concentration. To be able to develop a level of concentration and focus on present moment is incredibly critical for our emotional well-being. Because as I alluded to earlier, if all of our time is spent thinking about the past and thinking about the future, we don't usually feel so great. Now, if you want to think about all the wonderful things in the past, that's great. People don't typically do that. If you want to think about all the exciting, beautiful things ahead in the future, that's great. People don't typically do that. So to learn to concentrate and focus on present moment is critical. And then the 6th paramita, the 6th task, represents wisdom. And for me, wisdom is really always about putting the 5 into practice. Instead of looking at what the ultimate definition of wisdom is, which actually the Buddha, he praised Subhuti, one of his disciples. He asked Subhuti to give a discourse on wisdom. And Subhuti sat down and said nothing. And the Buddha said, good job. So, in Buddhist practice, we talk about ignorance, right? Ignoring nature of reality, true nature of reality. And that we practice wisdom to overcome ignorance. So for me, practicing the first 5 paramitas is wise, but also recognizing my own ignorance. If I am less ignorant, by default, that means I'm practicing greater wisdom. So, generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. Those are your 6 paramitas. Thanks, Tom. Other questions?
I find meditating at home difficult, but when I come here, it's not. It's easier to, I don't know if it's the energy in the room, but I do find it easier.
You didn't know it, but when you walked in, Travis had this magic like potion stuff that he sprays on you from behind, so you don't know it, and all of a sudden, like all the madness just drapes away, and then you come in here and you think it has something to do with this, but it's really this potion we bottled up. It's it's a top secret. I can't tell you what's in it, but yeah, it's very often you'll hear people talk about it's, and there's different reasons for it. But very often you hear people talk about it's much easier to meditate with others or in a certain place than it is at home. And some of it, again, it's very hard to comment on something like this because it's such an individual, unique thing. But some of the things I've heard over the years is that, and I think psychologically, when you're at home, right, which the flip side of this is we really need to learn to do a meditation at home because that's where we spend so much of our time. But then let's look at why is that so difficult or different or just doesn't feel the same. And a lot of that has to do with, there's your phone, you're probably not going to, like, while we're sitting here, get up and like open the refrigerator door. You're probably not going to like flip on the remote and turn on the TV. You're probably not going to pull up your phone or computer or something like that. So even just logistically, we've removed certain elements from our reach. They're like, well, shoot, I got nothing else to do. I might as well just sit here and shut up and breathe, And at home, there's so many other choices. That's part of it. And so removing ourselves from that environment and to cultivate, really, for anybody who's new to this, a good practice at home can be as simple as just creating a little space at home. It could be, corner, a little wall, could be outside, could be on the curb. Somewhere where you kind of shift the environment that you're normally in to create this sense of like, this is my sacred space. Like I said, you don't need more than like, a 1x1 space sitting against a wall. There is also a lot to be said, and you mentioned the word energy. There's a lot to be said about this kind of collective consciousness where, often I laugh because often people will say like, I like coming here because I want to be around like-minded people. And I always caution you because trust me, I know most of you and your minds are not alike, nor do you want them to be, right? You don't want a mind like mine. That would be hell. So our minds are not alike, right? We're very, very different. But what is similar is the intention behind people, whether it's, you can go meditate anywhere, but whether it's here or any meditation place or any yoga place or something like that, there's a general intention that people bring into a space that's typically really beautiful. And that helps to be surrounded by other people who are also working on their madness, And then, viharas, as they were called, temples were created to bring Sangha, to bring community together. And so, there's a lot of beautiful intention that goes into creating spaces like this. Even thinking about this as, a 90-plus-year-old church that for, 89 years before we had it, they did beautiful things in here. That was one of the first things 5 years ago. Most of you know we were downtown for 10 years, and then we moved here 5 years ago. And when we first walked in here, Maggie and I walked in, the place they had shut down for about a year. They weren't operating anymore, but they'd shut down for about a year. And it was a Swedenborgian congregation. Emmanuel Swedenborg was a Christian mystic. The place felt incredible, and it was empty. It was dusty, And one of my first questions to the Reverend was, what do y'all do here? And then I researched a little bit about what they'd done in here for 90 years. And it was beautiful. So I do believe that there's something karmically and collectively that we create in a space that carries on. And I always viewed this place as like, we didn't create this. We're just continuing on a very sacred space, and obviously grateful to do it. So I think some of those things and collectively, you know, with others, it really helps to find somewhere to go.
I do need to find the right space at home because I was in my office at home and that's where I work. Then I'm now in my bedroom, but that's where I sleep.
Yeah.
So I do need to find a different spot.
Yeah. It takes a little bit of adjusting. I mean, even for me during the, you know, the pandemic, you know, being closed 18 months of 2 years, I had to learn what it was like to lead meditation staring at these things. Because we think of meditation a time to get away from the computer, right? And here I am, like staring at the darn thing I stare at 10 hours a day, you know? So for me, that was also an adjustment. So play around with a little bit. You know, you don't need much. An empty wall is probably a place you don't spend a lot of time at, right? I mean, there's probably a wall in your house. You don't spend a lot of time sitting there staring at the wall, do you? Perfect place to build a little sacred corner or wall. You know, a little picture on there, a little setup, something, and boom. Yeah. Yeah, 18 months of staring at this. Yes, sorry. Yeah.
So I'm new to Buddhism, but I really want to learn more about it, and that's why I came here today. But as a beginner, where do you recommend starting or learning about it and implementing it into your life?
You have already started, my friend. Yes. My only apology is that you got stuck learning it from me the first time. So I hope you find somebody else. Are you Bella? Is this mom?
Yes.
Right on. Yeah, I spoke with you on the phone and loved your, you know, your tenacity and your intention is really beautiful. And your willingness, it's not easy to walk into a place for the first time ever. It's then not easy. I've got people been sitting with me for years who are afraid to raise their hand and ask a question. That effort, that diligence, that intention, just keep that. The rest will fall into place, right? There's not necessarily like perfect steps to answer that question is what I'm getting at. Keep the intention that says, I want to learn about Buddhism and meditation and how to bring it in my life. And if you keep that intention the same way you had it, in the same way you obviously probably went online and Googled something or however you found this place, in the same way you called, in the same way you asked that question, you just hold that intention in your heart and you'll be good. I think, because you said you're still in high school, right, or graduating? How many of us wish we learned this when we were 18 years old? You don't want to be like the rest of the 40-year-olds in this room. No offense to you 40-year-olds, right? If you can bring this practice diligently into your life now, it'll save you so many years of misery, right? So keep at it. You know, sure, there's always the answers of there's this class at this time, but you're smart enough and on the right track to figure that out. And I say this to everybody, the most important thing of Buddhist practice is you got to show up. And by show up, I don't necessarily mean like here, now, Saturday at 11. I just mean you have to show up to practice somewhere at some time and in your lives. And if meditation and Buddhism always just becomes this thing you do once a week for an hour, it's always just going to be a thing you do once a week for an hour. And so what you'll continue to learn is, yes, there are places I can learn and classes I can learn and people I can learn from, but then, which you said, how do I then bring it into my own life? And that's just a matter of coming back to the paramitas. That's a matter of patience and giving it time. Because, you know, and I'm not referring to you specifically, just everyone in general. If you've been an angry person most of your life, it's going to take more than 3 weeks to turn that around. You know, if you've been carrying tremendous stress and anxiety for many, many years, it takes more than a few weeks to turn that around. So the same energy and effort that we put into creating these emotional states of unpleasantness is that same energy and effort we have to put into creating a healthy mind, healthy heart. San Diego has lots of Buddhist stuff, lots of Buddhist places. And as I always say, most people know when they go somewhere to learn about Buddhist practice, it's kind of like the question, and I'll wrap up with this. It's like the question about meditation. You have to feel comfortable. And if you're not comfortable somewhere, that doesn't mean that place that shares Buddhism or practices Buddhism is bad or wrong. It just means it doesn't resonate with you. And that's what's most important. Same thing with meditation, is you have to find a place and people and a practice that will resonate with you. San Diego has so much stuff. A lot of it's altered and closed right now and changed because of COVID and things like that. But you always, especially as a new person, you always want to be comfortable and feel safe in any environment you go into. And Buddhism and spiritual practices are really no different, because how can I say this without sounding too offensive? There's a lot of weird stuff out there. For some people that's great, but there is, I think, an importance to understanding what is truly based in Buddhist practice and what is just kind of random New Age stuff that's very different. Not that that's bad or wrong, but very different. And there is a difference in New Age philosophy, New Age teachings, and Buddhist practice. Very different. So, but you'll come across all that as you go. Does that help? Yeah. So, all right, so we'll close with that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to the nearly 6 million lives that have been lost during this pandemic and their family and friends who still suffer at this time. And to those in Ukraine and surrounding areas who suffer tremendous loss and pain, may they all be at peace. May we all be at peace and free from suffering. So a few quick announcements before y'all head out. Thanks for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma bum. We opened up this temple 15 years ago, as I mentioned earlier, initially downtown. Moved here 5 years ago. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students, we're just practitioners. Those of us who lead have a different Buddhist background, and we share it from our unenlightened approach and do our best to help those who show up understand Buddhist teachings. Just about every night we have different practices going on. As I mentioned, 16 months straight we were closed. We were able to open for 6 and then shut down for 2. So it's nice to be, hopefully soon I'll stop even mentioning that, but I still feel like we're 3+ weeks into 4th week now being open. We're still kind of reopening. But it's really beautiful just to have people back here again. I appreciate y'all wearing the masks and still following the guidelines here, because it helps those who do show up feel safe and comfortable. Typically we'd have 70, 80 people here on a Saturday, and nobody wants to sit with 70, 80 people and no masks in a place like this. So we will stay cautious and stay conservative and stay safe for the health and safety of those who show up here. We appreciate you playing along. Family group will start up again next month. I believe our day of silence hopefully will start up again next month. There will be an RSVP for that. But Monday through Friday we sit 8 and 8:30. It's a silent sit during the week. Nobody leads that. There's no class. It's just somebody hits a bell. So if you want to start each day with a silent meditation, 8 to 8:25 and then 8:30 to 8:55, you're welcome to. Temple is still then closed during the day after morning meditation, and then opens up again in the evening for classes. And Saturday, Sunday, temple is open 12 to 3. Same thing, Buddha for You downstairs. If you need anything, books or whatever, that's there. That has reopened as well and follows well, the website hours, you'll see. One thing, we do have somebody showing up today to volunteer to clean the library, which is long overdue. So I am looking for, I'm going to close my eyes, I'm looking for one brave volunteer who wants to stay with Michael. He'll be here at 12 shortly, and spend about an hour helping to clean out the library. So we just want to take all the books off the shelf, dust it all out, and then put all the books back. Do we have any brave volunteer who wants to take that on? Normal. You already brought your. See, I really show up for your magnetic personality, Normal. All right, you sure? Nobody else wants to steal it away from Normal? It's all yours, Normal.
I've done enough for this place.
You have done nothing, my friend. Thank you all for being here. If you are going to be local in San Diego, we do have a college group that this guy was actually president of, just don't tell anyone, for a while. So
5 years ago.
5 years ago. That's a phenomenal group. And I know we mentioned that, but so we do have a college group at San Diego State that meets twice a week, and wonderful connect with other folks there. But, thanks all. Good luck. Be safe. Thank you for being here.
Okay. Okay.